Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast with Mike and Alex. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video or podcast on any platform that you're listening on. Please visit us at www.dumbideapodcast.com. All right, welcome back to another episode. A couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the latest trend, changing your Facebook profile, always being about or being on the righteous end of whatever's currently happening. While we're talking about that, let's the current thing now, as we're talking, and this will go out next week. The school shooting in Texas in Uvalde, I don't even know how to say it right. Uvalde. Anyone who doesn't know, 18-year-old boy, or I guess at that point you call him a man, went to an elementary school, got in, shot 19 people, or killed 19 people?
No, I think it's 21, 19 children, 2 adults.
2 adults, okay. So another school shooting, and of course, all the Facebook posts come out, and some are the thoughts and prayers people, and the other ones are, all right, thoughts and prayers aren't working, time to take the guns away. Other people are, thoughts and prayers aren't working, time for more mental health. Mental health needs to be addressed. And then you've got the people who are talking about other rational aspects, because I think at this point, I don't see the Second Amendment going away.
No, and I don't think, and I think I've said it before, where we could make private ownership of firearms illegal right now, and it will not affect homicides one bit through tonight and into tomorrow morning. It'll be the same numbers. I think what people fail to realize is that there are, the latest numbers I'm hearing, it's 100 million gun owners with 400 million guns in this country. That's everything. That's everything from, an old, over-under shotgun to a, to the most tricked out semi-auto rifle you could buy. But there's a lot out there. So, like everything else that we tend to debate in this country, everything becomes a zero-sum game, this or that. And I think because there are two sides that they can rally up their bases around doing that, when in actuality, some of these solutions are more complicated. They're more, there are so many factors coming into play that by simply saying, ban private ownership of guns, it's not gonna affect it. There's more to it than just these simple binary one-off solutions.
Well, and so two arguments I've heard, and one is a renewed one, was, well, why does anyone need an assault rifle? Or why does anyone need high-capacity mags? And my retort to that is, who needs a car?
Right, you can walk everywhere.
Correct. There's a lot of things we don't need in life, but we're allowed to have them. This is a free and open society, or supposed to be. Who needs a podcast? We certainly don't, but guess what? We got one, right?
Yeah. Some people would probably say we shouldn't have one.
Right, yeah. A majority of people who don't listen to us would say that, yes. And with the high-capacity magazine, I mean, the argument was, well, who needs that? Who needs that? No, okay. Just because it's not a need in life doesn't mean someone shouldn't have it. And the thing with this thing, you're talking about guns in general, is you're talking about something that's written in as something as the law of the land. The Second Amendment was put in there. And another argument made to me was, well, who do who do the people need to protect themselves against? And I said, okay, because they were like, well, no, they're not. No governments are coming down on the people. I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on now. You just had a government who tried to mandate vaccines on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 or 5 months later, as soon as a possible Supreme Court decision came out about, overturning Roe v. Wade, then the same people that were saying everyone should be vaxxed and we want the government to mandate it, all of a sudden said, hands off my body again.
It was right back to my body, my choice.
Correct. So I guess my point with that was, you're not going to get that both ways. You're just not.
Right.
And again, because this is something codified in the Second Amendment, you're going to have a really, really hard time, especially when there are some really ardent supporters. This isn't something where it's like 75% are against gun ownership and 25% of the population is for it. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. This is right down, I'd say you're probably 60% for, 40% against gun ownership in this country. And you're not going to overturn it that way.
Yeah, it's not going to come. And the thing is, like, I look at rights as, first of all, the rights weren't given to us. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people make the mistake, and Joe Biden said it yesterday, the Second Amendment's not absolute. The Second Amendment, it's as absolute as all the other ones are. And they weren't written there as gifts from the government to the people. The Bill of Rights was written to protect the people from the government.
Correct.
So let's not get that, and I think we get that a lot. We get that twisted a lot. And never, when the government takes power, does it ever give it back. Look at the Patriot Act. It's still going. Mm-hmm. It's still there. It's used more against American citizens than it is anybody else.
So people don't remember what Edward Snowden told everyone in his interview. The government can literally turn on the microphone and video camera on your phone without you knowing, mm-hmm. and have done that. And this was a guy who was an operator within the program.
Yeah.
Telling you, hey, they do this to you. Now, is it us? No. Because we're not doing anything, but for the one, for the person who says bomb on an airplane, the quote, meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to say bomb, 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 bomb. Yeah. And of course, just taking off the plane, and Jack goes in there. And
look, we're still taking our shoes off. We're still standing in a machine that subjects you to God knows what.
Listen, that machine, by the way, that sees a lot more than the X-ray one you walk through.
Yeah.
The one where you put your hands up and you kind of do the mm-hmm. Homo sapien position.
Yeah.
And it whirs around you. I mean, not that it's looking, it can see contours and everything of your body.
And it's funny because a friend of mine, her dad retired from the feds and works to test it, the system, and they get stuff through all the time. So, what's the but it's still, everyone's subjected to that inconvenience. Oh, but it's for safety. Okay. Some wacko tried to blow an airplane up with a shoe. Now 20 years later, we're still taking our shoes off. We're standing in those machines, in those lines. And then TSA is bragging about how many drugs they get off of people. That's not your mandate.
Right.
That's not your job. That's, to justify your own existence. Now you're going to go and brag about, we got so many drugs off of people. Last time I checked, a drug never blew up an airplane.
Right.
But they keep going with that. But I look at rights as, when they take one away, or when they try to take one away, well, then what's to stop them for the next one? And I think we've seen now with the now, I guess it's been suspended, but pending further review, the misinformation governance board, or whatever the hell nonsense that was going to be.
But she got taken down. The lady.
Yeah.
Because she spread. Yeah. It was funny. The person in charge of policing disinformation was spreading the disinformation.
Yeah. And then you listen to the White House press secretary stand up there and say, well, it's because the other side was attacking, that's always the Republicans' pounce, mm-hmm. Was attacking this person unfairly. I was like, wait, the disinformation board was taken down by disinformation? Is that what you're telling me? Because that's what it sounds like. And I think Peter Ducey kind of put it that way. They had no answer, of course. But
and all they did was just bring up her past tweets.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are probably some jerks that harassed a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I don't advocate for that. But the thing that got her in trouble was they brought up her past tweets.
And then some really weird Broadway songs she was singing about.
She was like, I think if they would have let her keep going, she was going to turn into what Stephen Colbert was with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Which was just creepy propaganda.
Just weird, yeah.
Like, wow, dude. Like, I was talking with someone the other day about that. Like, Stephen Colbert, when he was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, is like the correspondent, like the fake correspondent. Like, he was so good in that. Like, that show was funny. And now to see what he is and all these other late night hosts,
they're just shills. They're just hacks.
It's crazy to me, though. I don't understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. I guess a couple $20 million a year will do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand. Like, they do these interviews with people, and part of me thinks they sincerely believe what they're saying. Like, they just got they got brainwashed.
Yeah, they're the true believers.
It's like it's crazy to me, though.
They're the person I saw got stuck behind driving home from work today, who was doing 65 miles an hour in the left lane in a Honda Fit.
Oh,
and when they finally moved out of my way, I passed, and she's driving the Honda Fit by herself with a mask on. So it's the true believers.
Well, part of her defense, the Honda Fit, I don't think can go any faster than 65 miles an hour.
The left lane, though, was completely her choice.
Right, that is, yes.
The left lane was all her doing. All she had to do was stay in the right.
Yeah.
And the mask doesn't bother me at all, but when I passed, I was like, oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, she was in someone's breath wake from another car.
Yeah.
Somehow went through double pane glass windows and through her cabin air filter.
Her HEPA filter.
Yes. Well, wouldn't that be funny? She's wearing like the paper mask, but can't be bothered to change the air filter, her cabin air filter.
Yeah.
Like,
Jiffy Lube told her that needed to be changed.
Well, no, they only do the engine air filter. They won't do the cabin.
Yeah.
See, there's two. The funny, and that's the other weird thing. It's like, if we have listeners that wear the mask in the car by themselves, like, hey, look, they kind of make one for the car called the cabin air filter. Yeah. You can just go to the dealership. If you don't know how to change it, go to the dealership, ask for them to swap out your cabin air filter. It's going to do a better job than that mask on your face.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to wear the mask anymore.
Right.
It's like, hey, I just solved a problem for you.
Yeah. It was like 100 degrees today, and I just like, ugh, I saw that.
Yeah, it was warm.
But, I think that we get far too simplistic. And I think it's just because, I hate to say it, but it's true, you have some of this, that through the fake tears, they just use it to push their agenda. And, these families haven't finished the grieving process yet. They haven't even begun to compute what's going on, and now you're using them as a reason to push your agenda.
Speaking about that, and I'm not saying Abbott was doing the right thing by having a press conference in Uvalde, but then Beto O'Rourke goes in and storms it.
It was
grandstanding for both of them. It's like, dude, no one cares if kids are getting shot up at a local school. No one cares if the governor's there or not.
Yeah.
Stay away. You're bringing a circus with you.
And then you had Beto come in, and that just was like another act of the circus. And then you had that dude on the walker that stood up and was like, "Get the hell out of here, you sick piece of crap." And I'm like, "You get it." I'm like, "What are you going to do, dude? Throw the walker at him? You're going to fall down." But, it's just, there's no need for it. And, then you hear, well, now we need common sense this. Well, first of all, let's actually enforce the laws that are on the books, number one. Let's not send people who are murderers home on home monitoring.
Right.
That's probably something we should look at. And then maybe come up with a comprehensive solution. And I'm not that much of a two-way zealot to go and say, oh, everything's fine, nothing needs to change. For the life of me, the in most states, including Maryland, well, Maryland is for the heavy barrel version, but AR-15 is cash and carry. Well, maybe we can make that a regulated firearm then.
Is it not registered though?
No. So in Maryland, so let's go here just because that's where we are. If I bought a heavy barrel AR platform rifle, regardless of whether it was in 5.56 or 308, I bought it. I could just sell it to you for cash. Like, here you go. You want to buy my rifle? Or, oh, I don't want this anymore. Here you go. You can have it. Nothing needs to be done.
Which is weird because handguns are heavily regulated.
Right, because a handgun is a regulated firearm. Now, the AR that I built is actually an AR pistol, so that lower is registered as a pistol. Mm-hmm. So for me to sell that one, we'd have to go to a FFL. I don't have a problem treating those weapons as regulated firearms.
Yeah. Why aren't they though? That's strange to me because, I mean, I guess because a handgun is more concealable. I mean, I don't know the reason why. Like,
well, there's just because nothing they do makes sense.
Right.
And the other thing is, criminals don't care. Criminals don't care.
That's a different topic though, too, right?
Yeah. So like the kid who wants to do this, and the first big one, Columbine, happened during the assault weapons ban.
Right.
So that was the assault weapons ban expired in 2004. The Columbine was 96 or 97. I think it was 97. But that was those were just they weren't regulated firearms. They weren't AR-15s. And for those of you that don't know this, AR does not stand for assault rifle. It means Armalite rifle. But but there's such weird things with the law. So like the one I built is a pistol. It has an arm brace that covers a buffer that's on the buffer tube. If I replace that arm brace with like an M4A2 style adjustable stock, just from that cosmetic change, that weapon stops being a pistol, becomes what they call an SBR, a short barrel rifle, and is a felony to possess without a tax stamp. It's just cosmetics. It makes no sense.
Right.
So, like, there's some just quirks in there that can be addressed. The one, and like I said, as much of a second A supporter as I am, I wouldn't have a problem raising the age to purchase to 21.
That's why I'm not for that.
Making it now. Here's the thing, though. If you want to go buy a Glock 19, you have to be 21. You can't buy that at 18.
Handgun?
Yep.
In the state of Maryland, you can't buy that?
Nope.
See, some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me.
Right. So you can't buy it. That's federal. You can't buy it anywhere at under 21. So, but you can go buy the AR-15.
Right.
Now, if we're going to say, but my thing is like, okay, if you can't buy a handgun until you're 21, you can't buy a pack of cigarettes until you're 21, you can't buy alcohol until you're 21, just make 21 the age of adulthood.
So here's my issue with that. If a child or if a person the age of 18 is eligible to be drafted and sent to war, I'm not in favor of 21 being the legal age to do anything.
No, me neither. But let's make it all.
I'm
21.
saying 18 should be.
Yeah. Or raise draft to.
If you raise draft to 21,
right?
Then I'm cool with making everything else 21.
That's what I'm saying.
But my thing is like, look, you're not going to be eligible for the government to send you off to war, and ineligible to have an alcoholic drink,
right? Or
whatever, or own the gun.
Here's the other thing where I agree with you there is, so you can't buy. So I guess they switched from the Beretta to something else, but I was going to use the Beretta. So the military designation is M9, the civilian 92 FS. So you're 18 years old. You can't buy a Beretta 92 FS. It's a regulated firearm. You have to be 21 to buy it. But I can draft you and then send you off to war with one.
And with a fully automatic gun.
Yeah.
Like, you can't buy a fully automatic gun here.
Nobody can. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, well, you can.
You buy a
but
set. Well, you have to.
it's expensive and time consuming, and with the cost of ammunition, who wants to go and do that?
Correct. But I mean, for me, the going to the being eligible to go to war, and for people to say, well, we haven't had a draft in, well, it's only been about 40 years.
Yeah.
Vietnam was the last draft.
Mm-hmm. And there's a great book. It's called McNamara's Mourns.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. It shows how they, to boost the numbers, they went and let all kinds of people who were probably shouldn't have been able to be drafted to do anything to be drafted and sent off to die.
Right.
So,
yeah, I guess my issue with if the government can send you to go to war against your will at 18, then basically if they can send you off to die, well, I should at least be able to have a beer first.
yeah. Smoke a cigarette.
Smoke cigarettes.
Can't do either one of those.
Or I can go shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go send me to shoot guns anyway.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's kind of like you're taking a young person's choice away from having to go to war, but you're just not going to allow them to have some basic liberties to do other stuff. And you know, look, am I 100% in that camp? No, I'm not 100% in any of these camps. But
yeah, me neither.
But the one thing I do know is common sense resolution to this, or at least tightening of some of these things, isn't on anybody's mind.
No.
You have one side that's just saying take away all the guns, and you have another side saying you're going to take it from my dead cold hands.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about other issues.
Yeah.
For example, access control to these schools.
Mm-hmm.
How did this kid even get in the school?
Yeah. So,
like, once the kids go in, at least at our elementary school, where our kids go, after school starts, all doors are closed, and access can only be in and out only through one of the door sets.
yeah.
And those are, by the way, those are steel doors, and then there's a second set of steel doors. So you can, once you get in, and you have to buzz in, they have to look at you.
Yeah.
They ask you what your business is. Mm-hmm. If they think that you have business to be there, they let you in the first set of doors.
Yeah.
Then you have to go into the office.
Yep.
They don't unlock the second set.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a man trap.
Yeah.
And that's a very simple, relatively inexpensive thing to do, is to install those, have single point of entry. Now our kids' school, they go in a different set of doors, but you know, there's tons of people there, you know, parents, there's all kinds of,
but once school starts,
yeah, you aren't getting in. Like, I can't go knock on some random door,
right,
and get in. So
unless someone, a teacher, lets you in, because the school, and this is throughout our county, there are doors directly into classrooms. Mm-hmm. And that was from a different time when they allowed for multiple. Like, you could go directly into the classroom, or you could release the kids directly out of the classroom. Yeah. So the kids didn't have to walk through the school and all this stuff. But since then, though, those doors are supposed to be shut and they're locked. But my wife is someone who works in the schools, and even she says, well, like, if the air conditioning's broken or not working right, some of the teachers open the door to let air in. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, they need to be told they can't do that.
Yeah.
If you control access, for the most part, you can control this problem almost. I mean, will there be a couple breakthroughs? I mean, can someone go in? If the only way they can go into the school is go through the office and out through another door into the main part of the building, I mean, could they kill everyone in the office and then go in? Sure.
Yeah. But
deterrent is a big thing. You know, if people think that, look, I might not even get through the first door.
Well, it all comes down to target hardening, mm-hmm. and if you can harden that target, you know, most all crime in general is just opportunity.
Sure.
And you've got, if you remove the opportunity or you increase the risk, you can deter the crime.
Mm-hmm.
So, the risk is getting caught. And then the opportunity is the victim, or if it's property crime, the property being unattended with a suspect there in the same time. So if you can remove one of those things or increase the risk of getting caught, then you will then reduce or deter that crime from occurring. Now, you're never going to deter the determined adversary.
No.
You could lock that place down like Fort Knox, and if someone desperately wants to get in there, they will.
But there's other things you can do once they get in. So then, like you said, target hardening. Okay, once you get in the building, and there was a news report, and it's basically for $400,000 per school, and it sounds expensive, but think about how big some of these school budgets are.
Yeah.
And you could do a couple schools a year, and you're not doing them all at once. But essentially, it's a system where once any of the teachers hears gunfire, all they have to do is press one button, and there's a school that has it already. They wear these like dongles around their neck. It's like a necklace almost that hangs down, and it's like almost like a car key fob. And if they
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah. It's very much like that. Once the button is pressed, a signal goes to the main office, who then is alerted to look on the cameras, and then they can, from that office, they can press another button and lock every single classroom door.
Yeah.
And the alarm goes off, and it's a really loud alarm in the hallways. All the teachers then know, okay, inside my classroom, they had a line of red tape on the floor. The line of red tape was the line of sight from the window on the door into the hallway.
Yeah.
So, and it was big enough, like there was a space big enough to put all of the kids behind that red line. So now the shooter can't even shoot through the window and hit anybody.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a line to shoot anybody.
Yep.
So the first sign of something going wrong, teacher hits a button, it goes to the office. The office then hits a button, locks all the doors down, sirens go off, teachers know to get their kids to safety, and also the police department's notified.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not sure if I agree with this part of it, smoke goes off.
Yeah,
and it's to kind of blind the intruder.
The problem is smoke also blinds the police who are responding.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not sure if I'm on board with it or not. But my thing is, for $400,000, you've almost, I don't know the exact percentage of how much safer you just made everybody, but it's a pretty significant amount. If the shooter gets in and now can't go into any classroom and shoot kids, it's that much safer.
Yeah, and you have another. So I remember when I was in high school, I was in the band, and we'd play a concert at night. But the school, pretty much to deter if someone broke into the school at night from getting all over the place, had these big gates that would come down or across the hallways, and they'd lock them. So we'd be in there, and we'd be able to get from the band room to the auditorium.
Yep.
And then parents and people coming to see the concert could get in to see and you'd have access to bathroom stuff, but pretty much all the guts of the school were locked down behind these gates.
Yep, we had those too.
And Fairview automated those almost like fire doors.
Right.
And then what you could do is you could contain the shooter.
You trap him in there
into one area. So, if you have, okay, he's in this area, lock it down. Now, may you have students and staff that are still in that area, but if they're behind their classroom doors, at least this guy isn't mobile throughout the whole school.
Right.
And you want him contained, not just being able to waltz freely from wherever he wants to go.
Right.
And I think that we also need to invest more in, because people say, oh, well, we don't want to traumatize the kids. Well, I'd rather be traumatized than be dead.
Right. Yeah.
And, we do fire drills. I remember we did fire drills. The last kid that died in a fire in a school was in like 1952 because they started doing fire drills after that and practicing. And you can make it fun for little kids. You know, I tell my boys when I drop them off, I say, hey, know where the exits are. Be aware of what's going around you. And I tell them the closest exit may not be the way you came in.
Right.
So know where you are. And I said, exits aren't always doors. Sometimes exits are windows. And if you have to go out a window, so then my oldest said, well, it's the second floor. And I said, well, sometimes that's better than what's on the other side of the door.
Broken legs are better than being dead.
Yeah. And now, granted, they're in elementary school, but still telling them, like, hey, and it's stuff we didn't have to think of when we were kids, but now, you know, you tell them about it. So it's training on the school side. It's training the police departments. Now, Uvalde police has been crucified, and you know the thing is they're getting crucified, but we still don't know exactly what we know a timeline, but we don't know what those guys who were inside there were dealing with. So it's real easy for us to sit on the outside and say they're cowards, and it still may be true, but let's let the whole report come out and see what exactly those guys had.
I've heard different versions of the story and the timelines though too. So it's like I don't feel like anyone except for maybe the people there maybe have enough knowledge to even speak on it. Like I've heard the police were inside while the parents were outside yelling at the police to go inside.
Yeah.
Or some, whether it was CBP or local police, I heard that there were already people inside. Mm-hmm. And then I heard like a police officer tased a parent. Now, who knows? The parent was probably going ballistic and maybe needed to be calmed down.
Yeah.
But my thing, I can't comment on the response because I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I shouldn't know. I mean, I don't live there. But going back to your point about the kids being traumatized, and I want to say it was last Thursday. We had some pretty rough storms here. Mm-hmm. And all the schools in the area went into shelter in place because it was possible tornado, right? So my youngest, who's in first grade, you know, she's with all of her classmates. They're all huddled in like the back of the room, I guess. And they get through the drill just fine. And then I get an email from the teacher, not me, but like all the parents in the class got an email from the teacher basically saying, you know, you need to let your kids know that they need to sit there and be quiet during these drills so that I can hear what's going on. And for the most part, I agree with that. So I talked to my daughter because my daughter's one of the chatty Cathys in the room, right? I mean, she social butterfly, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so my wife was talking to her because I talked to her. I said, hey, you know, were you one of the people talking? And she's like, no. I was like, are you sure? And she said, maybe. I said, okay, look, you can't do that. You got to be quiet. Well, anyway, she then talks to my wife about it because my wife got the same email. She talked to her about it. And the part she didn't tell me was apparently some of the other girls in her class were scared. And my daughter was speaking because she was trying to comfort them and tell them it was okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if I would have known that part, I wouldn't have even talked to my daughter.
Yeah.
Because if that's what she's going to do and she's just caring for some other kids, sorry, teacher, you couldn't hear above that.
Yeah. But
you had some scared kids. Maybe you could have comforted. I don't know. I'm not really to blame because the teacher's got to do what the teacher's got to do.
Yeah.
But don't. It was kind of like blaming the kids. You know, if they were just being rowdy and jumping around, but no, apparently no. She was like sitting on the ground where she was supposed to be in the place the teacher told her to, but she was comforting two other girls around her who were visibly scared.
Yeah.
So to go back to your word about trauma, but I would rather have them be traumatized than dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my point wasn't to talk about like the teacher.
We can pay for some therapy later on.
Right. But my point was to say, like, look, this was just a tornado drill. Mm-hmm. But because the alarms were going off and the teachers were taking it seriously because it was a serious thing and a serious event, the kids get scared. I mean, we're talking about elementary school. The kids get scared.
Yeah.
These aren't middle schoolers and high schoolers who have a little bit more emotional wherewithal about them, although that could be debated because, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I'd rather have them be traumatized than dead.
Yeah.
But
the trauma, is that really trauma for the kids, or is it just adults projecting their own fears onto the kids? Like, oh, they must be traumatized because I don't like this either. Well, nobody likes it.
right.
But unfortunately, that's the reality in which we live today.
Yeah. And the good thing is that, I mean, she talked to both my wife and I talked to her about it because we knew the drill was going to happen. We knew the drill happened because all the parents got notified it happened. And we talked to them about it and, want to make sure, oh, did you know why? And they were fine with it. But we also know that not all kids will talk about that kind of stuff with their parents because some parents, look, we already know some of the disciplines out the window with some of these parents. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like the amount of parents out there who think my kid's wonderful and great, and I'm going to let them do all these things and make their own decisions because they're humans.
Yeah.
Like, no, you need to make them into good humans.
Right.
Not just let them run all over you.
Yeah.
Because they'll end up being really crappy people later on in life if you do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, thanks for that, because now I probably got to deal with your crappy kid when I grow up.
Yeah.
But that being said, I was gonna talk about the other thing, and you can go back to that if you want to. After, I just want to make sure I get it out there. Some of the, for me, access control would have stopped Uvalde, but law enforcement response would have stopped Sandy Hook, and that's the one everyone's comparing this to, is Sandy Hook. Mm-hmm. The Sandy Hook shooter was reported to the FBI 3 times. Yeah. And the FBI all 3 times said, nothing to see here. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently there was something to see here. Maybe someone should have... I'm not trying to say the FBI is a bad place. I'm just saying whoever got put on that kid at Sandy Hook, or those kids at Sandy Hook, didn't do the job.
Yeah, well...
Because, so that... And that's 2 major elementary school shootings.
Yeah.
That could have been avoided. One with access control, and one with just doing a proper investigation of someone who was reported 3 times.
Yeah.
And that doesn't... Neither one of those 2 solutions includes anything about the Second Amendment or taking guns away from anybody.
Well, even Buffalo, the top supermarket shooting in Buffalo, there were flags all over the place with that kid, and he wrote a manifesto, like a 200-page manifesto. Yep. And there's they call them ERPOs, the Extreme Risk Protective Order, which some debate the legality of that, the constitutionality, but in any case, they exist. So they have this enforcement action in the state of New York, which has some of the strictest gun control laws in the country, and then no one bothered to enforce it. So if you have that going on, what's yet another law going to do if it's not going to be enforced?
Yeah, and even with the kid in Uvalde, some of the stuff he was posting was crazy too.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, look, I guess my point, and I'm not saying, look, go arrest these people for speaking what they want to speak about. I don't want to restrict speech.
Yeah.
But if they're going to put something out there and it's suspicious, I'm not saying you arrest them, but at least go and investigate, and maybe more than a day. Yeah. Maybe you go visit the person a couple times. Yeah. Hey, would you, the first time you go, hey, we saw that there were some posts online. They seem to be a little bit on the edge, and we're coming to just check and make sure. Did you mean those things? And of course, oh no, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. I was just kidding. I was just putting that online.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? You let them go that day.
Yeah.
You're not arresting anybody.
Right.
But the fact that they got a visit from the FBI or local law enforcement is going to give them some pause. And then guess what? Maybe you send someone out three days later.
Yeah.
And then maybe another 6 days after that. 2-3 encounters with a police officer or the FBI or whoever is going to do that investigation might be enough for the person to say, you know what? I can't go do this.
Yeah.
Because I'm done.
Yeah. And then you also have the that. Okay, so if he doesn't own any weapons, because under the ERPO laws they can take them, but maybe you go and say, hey, this guy, you can't buy a firearm until this is cleared up.
Right.
And I can tell you that, I know a lot of FFLs, and they don't want to sell guns to people like this.
No.
They don't want to do that. And, it's not like there's some, because I think people like to believe that there are these like unscrupulous gun dealers they're like drug dealers. They just sell guns. They'll just sell they just want to make money and they'll sell them to whoever. But no, these guys they don't want to sell these things to crazy people. They're going to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else with them. So
there's enough gun fanboys out there where they don't need the one-off sale to the random dude.
Yeah.
They've got guys who are gun aficionados, hunters, and whoever. Buying guns is like a hobby for some of these people. They probably don't even shoot half of the ones they have.
Yeah.
But they like to go and buy one. Mm-hmm. That's their vice,
Yeah.
In fact, it's the FBI calling right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got you guys on surveillance now.
Yeah.
That's what they were calling about.
Yeah. So they got us.
The podcast got picked up. We're on someone's radar.
It was just some idiot that didn't silence his cell phone, or his watch.
But a lot of these gun shop owners. Do you think it's not? Of course, it's not great for gun sales because the next time, then, especially if they live in a semi-liberal area, they probably got 20 protesters outside the store for the next week.
Yeah,
saying, you're a murderer. You sold the guns to a murderer. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's like the guilt by association, even though they're a legal store owner, doing everything by the book.
Yep.
And I think you're right, though. I think there is some room as far as the gun control compromise. I'm not saying to not sell guns. I'm not saying make guns illegal.
Yeah.
But there is that loop. There's that gun show loophole, and then there's that long rifle loophole. Mm-hmm. And I think if they just regulate long rifles like they regulate handguns, I don't see there being an issue anymore because, the kid in Uvalde bought his guns legally.
Yeah,
he's 18. He bought his guns.
Yeah.
The only thing that I don't think people should, they kind of equate mental health to gun sales. Mm-hmm. The problem is that medical records are not public.
Yep.
The government, police, and for the I think in the state of Maryland, the Maryland State Police do the background checks for gun purchases. If I'm right, when I went and took the 2-day course, and I got my fingerprints done, my picture was taken, I got my ID card and everything like that. After I believe it was 3 or 4 days, I did it through a class at a gun shop.
Yeah.
They held the class, they did the fingerprinting and all this other stuff. You don't get the license until like a week, 2 weeks later after the background check is done.
Yeah.
And they only call you if the background check doesn't pass.
Right. And then the email says you are not disapproved.
Right.
Which is weird.
But the thing that they can't check in the background check is your medical records for mental health issues, or any issue. If you have an ACL injury, they won't know. They'll know none of your medical history.
Yeah.
Because it's protected by HIPAA laws. So I know everyone's like, well, we need to do a better job with mental health. And, well, if someone isn't actively going, or I guess if someone is on certain medications for depression or whatever, or going to therapy for whatever mental issues they have going on, that being on their medical file isn't going to stop them from passing a background check for a gun.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to come up is would be an involuntary commitment, because that's a court thing.
Right.
So
that's the courts, though. That's not.
But if you just went and voluntarily went to a residential treatment facility and did your whatever time it is there, say you're there for a week, and then you get out.
Right. It's not going to stop a gun purchase.
No, it won't. And and my thing is, should it? Like, if you're feeling, say you're feeling depressed, and it gets to the point where you think you're going to hurt yourself, and then you're treated, Should you not, say you're a big duck hunter?
Yeah.
Should you not be allowed to buy a shotgun to go shoot ducks? Like, does that?
And I'm not in favor of that. I think because there's such a wide range of mental health, and we've talked about this before. Even someone like myself who goes through therapy, and I do take an antidepressant.
Mm-hmm.
Should I be disqualified from owning a gun?
Right.
And I don't know. I actually, to be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah. However, currently I'm not disqualified from owning a gun.
Right.
But I also, I guess I could say that. I don't believe I would do anything horrible with a gun.
No,
My sole purpose for wanting it is to go to like the gun range and go, shoot targets or clay pit or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's also for peace of mind of having something in the home to protect myself and my family against a possible intruder one day. And of course, everyone, you live in the suburbs. It's never going to happen to you.
Well,
it does. It does happen. It might not happen to me, but at least I'll be the person who's prepared in case.
And what I think is funny is they say, well, you don't need a gun because the police will protect you. But this is the same people that are saying defund the police. So,
and with their private security.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's real easy for me to sit there and say, oh, you don't need to protect yourself while I'm sitting in a walled compound with taxpayer-funded armed men who are armed with automatic weapons. Like, it's real easy to say that when you're in that situation. And then we have our president who's, talking about deer aren't wearing Kevlar vests, man. Like, it's just the most cliched, stupid crap. If you're trying to get... Today he said that a 9mm blows the lung out of a body. I'm like, what are you talking about? But if you're trying, if you're trying to convince somebody that your point of view is your position is valid and at least holds water and should be debated, at least learn something about what you're so much against. Yeah. Rather than just coming out with old, tired cliches.
And that's what it is. It's every time. It's the same talking points over and over and over again. And they're not actionable items.
No. There are other things that can be done, yet we continue to not do it. They cite a whole bunch of different reasons, cost being one of them, but we have no problem sending $40 billion to Ukraine.
Right,
sending all hundreds of millions, just printing money left and right for nonsense. I mean, the government can't even give away money without it getting screwed up.
Well, it's coming out now that a lot of the COVID relief money, the PPP loans, the amount of money that got just, I don't even know the right word, the corruption involved with it.
Yeah.
Like the money went to no one who needed it.
Right.
I'm not going to say no one. I'm sure there were 10% of the money might have gone to someone who needed it.
Yeah.
The other 80 to 90% went to it was that old crony capitalism again. Mm-hmm. The government's buddies got it.
Yeah.
And
then there's of course your waste, fraud, and abuse, which is rampant.
That's what I mean. It's more, but I think the official statistic was $4 trillion of wealth went from the 99% to the 1%. Mm-hmm. It was the greatest transfer of wealth we've seen.
Yeah.
In over 50 years.
Yeah.
And it went the wrong way.
Yep.
And it happened through small business shutdowns. Mm-hmm. It happened through government programs. and look, people could say that's conspiratorial. That's where the money went.
Yeah.
Think about how many times people didn't go to a local clothing store and started shopping on Amazon for the first time.
Right.
Now, look, I shop on Amazon a lot, but I've shopped on Amazon for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Or the local toy store like Franklin Toys down the road. How many people didn't go to Franklin Toys because it was shut down?
Yeah.
And bought the toy off of Amazon. Mm-hmm. And the shipping companies got rich. The online companies got rich. And don't think it was a coincidence that, Walmart and Target just happened to get their online game better.
Yeah.
Through this thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like UPS, FedEx, they made a lot of money off of this.
Instacart, Uber Eats, all of them.
they picked winners and losers.
Yeah.
So if people don't think that, if people just think the government's got their best interest at heart, they don't know history at all.
Yeah.
And they're not looking behind the curtain a little bit. And it doesn't take much to do that.
No, it doesn't.
Some of these things are just right in front of us.
Yeah. And like, as much as I am, in favor of having a strong military, if we were to spend, so an F-22 Raptor costs $135 million.
Mm-hmm.
So let's buy one less F-22, and how many schools could you upfit, retrofit, whatever, to meet the, a new standard? Maybe when they're building these schools, they should incorporate some of these ideas into their construction initially, so that's cost that doesn't have to be then put in later.
So I just did a calculation.
Mm-hmm.
If I use that system that got put into that school with the deterrents and the locks and the buttons and all this other stuff, if it actually costs $400,000,
mm-hmm.
with the $40 billion that we just sent over to Ukraine, if that was used to implement that system at local elementary schools, you could have outfitted 100,000 elementary schools.
Yeah.
Now think about it. We sent $400 billion over there twice.
Yeah.
So you could have done 200,000 elementary schools, and it would have made them safe.
Yeah.
But instead, they're going to waste their breath on, we need to repeal the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
We need to take everyone's guns away.
Which is never going to happen.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Rather than thinking rather than doing something practical, with $40 billion or $80 billion if you want to count the second tranche of money that went over, or if you take away one Raptor, or whatever it is, don't tell me you can't find the money.
Yeah.
Because you're printing it left and right, and I'm sure there's a program that doesn't get used, or they could skip it for a year,
or doesn't work,
right? Or just skip it for a year,
yeah.
Or how about, I don't want to go too deep into teachers unions because I think they're corrupt as crap.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not saying the teachers are corrupt. I'm saying the teachers union.
Yeah.
The unions.
And why haven't they made a big stink about this? This is their membership that's being killed.
Because it's not party line for them.
Yeah.
It's not party line for them. They were trying to everyone saw through the teachers union when they saw the memo they sent to the DOJ, and then all of a sudden the DOJ put out like some kind of rule in place, but then they got found out and they had a reverse course on it. I can't remember what it was. It had to do with Virginia though, or something like that. God, I wish I could remember. But basically, the memo that came out from the DOJ, well, it turned out that it was written by the NEA, which is the National Education Association. They wrote the memo for the DOJ.
Mm-hmm. It's like in bed. They're all in bed with each other. And
right.
It's if you say you had, so coal miners, right? They all used to die of black lung. And through the unions and OSHA, they went and passed all kinds. They have to have respirators and all this stuff. They have to have, they have to have the, what do they call it? Whatever the gas is that's down there.
The carbon monoxide
detectors. They have to have the detectors and all that other stuff down there. And that all came from pressure from the union that they put on the government to enforce these regulations. But NEA isn't doing anything. They'll just get behind party line, ban all guns.
Right.
Which, again, if you could wave a magic wand and do it and all homicides were to stop, I don't think anyone would be opposed to that.
Well, and then you got the other side saying, well, we need to arm all the teachers.
Right.
Okay. Look, and I get, we'll train them all how to use the guns. Okay, you know how many people, there are a lot of people out here who don't want to have a gun on them.
And you didn't go,
I don't want to force someone to have a gun that don't want a gun.
Like, my wife was a teacher. She didn't go to become a teacher to carry a firearm. And the thing is, it's more than just giving someone a gun and training them how to use it. It's a mindset. Mm-hmm. Are you going to deploy that firearm and shoot somebody? Because whatever you think is going on, and there are plenty of people that will just lay down and die. So, when they could have fought back. But to just go and give someone a weapon and say, okay, if you have someone that maybe is retired law enforcement or used to be combat arms in the military and they're willing to like, hey, I have the mindset, I have the training, I'll carry, then I don't have a problem letting that person do so.
Right.
I'm not against that either because I don't think everything has to be this zero-sum game. Right. All or none. It's dumb. Like, your wife might not want to carry a gun and that's fine because she doesn't have that mindset where, say, the teacher next door, she was a MP in the military and retired, got out, became a teacher and has no problem carrying a firearm, then I don't see the big deal in your wife not carrying this other teacher carrying.
She got 6 on her already.
Yeah. Yeah. So
she's already packing heat in the school and no one even knows.
Yeah. So I don't see the problem with that. But again, it's because it doesn't concretely support one side. That solution doesn't support 100% one side or the other. So it'll get crapped on by one side or crapped on by the other, because it's not about protecting these kids. It's about how can I rally my base?
Right. How can I fundraise off of this?
Yeah.
Like there was a politician, I believe, in Buffalo who literally fundraised off that top shooting. Mm-hmm. The grocery store shooting. Fundraised that. Yeah. He raised over like $2 million.
Yeah.
Right after the shooting off of the anti-gun stance. I'm like, you sick bastard.
Yeah. Just playing on people's emotions. And, it gets, and I've been trying to, get it in a little bit, but, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, like, this is a relatively recent phenomenon in the greater scheme of things. Like, you had the Texas A&M clock, I think it was A&M, or University of Texas clock tower shooting where the guy went up into the clock tower and, shot a bunch of people up there from an elevated position.
Was that 80s?
No, that was in the 60s. That was in the 1960s. Dude was a Marine Corps vet and, lost his mind and went up and did that. But they didn't happen with the frequency that they do now.
The only one I can remember like that, though, is the Las Vegas one.
Yeah, so this one occurred at, I want to say it was University of Texas. He was a Marine Corps veteran. He either killed his wife or got into a fight with his wife or she was leaving him. He grabs his rifle, a bolt-action rifle, climbs this clock tower on campus and just starts shooting people from this very deadly elevated position. But he's a trained shooter. He knew what he was doing. The police eventually went up there and took him out with like their 38s. And then after that, the police started carrying like BARs and stuff in their cars. But when you get to, there was a time where you could buy a Thompson submachine gun in the Sears catalog. Yeah. A civilian could own a Browning automatic rifle. And for anyone that's not familiar, if you remember Saving Private Ryan, that was essentially the machine gun, the squad, what today we call the squad automatic weapon. Mm-hmm. So it would be like today if you could own an M249 and just carry this thing around and own it. And we didn't have it with this thing then. And you have to look and say, well, what is causing this? And I think you can't really get around it without saying there's definitely a moral decay occurring within society. There's a lack of values, and whether it comes from the home or from church or from wherever you get it from, people aren't getting it.
But if people don't think that they're, I don't even know the right word. Basically political grandstanding. But look at which ones they politically grandstand on. Mm-hmm. If I say Parkland, mm-hmm. Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Uvalde, mm-hmm. you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. If I mention Las Vegas, the first thing that comes to your mind is not that shooter. Yeah. Texas A&M, not that shooter. Yeah. The church in South Carolina, no one remembers that kid. Yep. And I bet you probably a year from now, no one's going to remember Tops.
What about the New York City subway shooting?
No, yeah, no one's gonna remember that either.
Yeah, or the one that occurred.
But you want to know you want to know the ones that keep getting brought up are school shootings because they're using those kids' deaths as fundraising tools.
Yeah, and the thing is that the children, it's horrific. We have little kids. That was a 4th grade classroom. I have a 4th grader. You know, Sandy Hook was those were babies. Those are kindergarten. I mean, that's you know, it's horrific, and every parent can't help but think, oh my God, what would I do in that situation? So they stick that way, and they get these unscrupulous politicians can use it to then, and it's like, have some, at least wait a week or two before you start trying to take advantage of it. But there's the old adage, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Well, my point to that was that we've mentioned maybe 2 or 3 solutions to this issue. Police response, access control, target hardening. That's just 3 things.
Yeah. And we even touched on some of the with the extreme risk protective orders and maybe changing some of the gun laws so that we're going to treat the AR-15 as a regulated firearm.
Sure. Or in the long rifles, regulate the long rifles like we do handguns.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about any of that.
Yeah.
No one. It's take their guns, make them illegal, or arm everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what none of these people are serious. All these people that get on TV and talk are there to just stir up your emotions and get your money. Because if they were actually serious about solving the issue, they would talk about the 5 things. We just talked about, we got 5 things.
Yeah.
One of which we just proved is affordable.
Yep.
Because we just sent a whole bunch of that money somewhere else. Never mind all the other foreign aid we give.
Yeah.
And all the other money we spend on the military money. No offense, I'm a huge military proponent, but we have 11 super carriers.
Yeah.
The next closest country has 2.
Yeah.
If you put I think if you added up, 7 or 8 countries together, they still don't have the number of super carrier groups that we do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you don't replace the ones we got. But if you took $40 billion, like we just did twice with Ukraine, maybe you pull something out for a year to get $40 billion. You find it. You find the pocket change in the couch somewhere.
Yeah.
And you make these schools safer.
Yeah. And let's not kid ourselves and think that the cost we're spending on this military stuff isn't inflated.
Sure.
And if you look at the carriers we have, like, okay, so the carriers we have are Suburban LTZ Premiers. We could go with the LT model. It'll be fine. It's got the same engine. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it still beats whatever everybody else has. And, but the cost of them is just, it's so inflated because the money just goes to, I always say it's a lot easier. It's easy to spend somebody else's money. It's real easy to spend other people's money. But then when it comes to your own money, you're like, oh, I'm not spending that.
Well, even the part where we talked about printing money. The government's annual budget 3-4 years ago, I think it was like 1.5 trillion.
Yeah.
The last 2-3 years, it's been over 4 trillion.
Yeah.
They found $3 trillion, $2.5 trillion
just laying around
each year.
Yeah.
For the last 3 years. You found roughly $7 trillion. Trillion.
Yeah.
Which used to be 7. It would have been the annual budget for 7 years combined.
Yeah.
You're telling me you can't find enough money to harden these schools up?
Well, they've printed more money in the last 3 years than has ever existed on Earth.
Right.
And
I bring it up though because that's how unserious these people are.
Yeah. And why do we keep taking them seriously? They don't have they don't have a solution in mind because they don't care to.
Because they tap into our emotions.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Words get people excited.
Yeah.
And it gets them to donate. It's and we know people on both sides that would donate in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
They'll do $10 a month, $20 a month. I mean, and the worst part is these politicians, they brag about it because they're so worried that people are going to think they're bought and paid for by politicians. They go, well, 75% of his donations were under the amount of $25.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. You want to know what? I guarantee you 30% of that was a corporation doing $25 at a time, and they paid a kid $15 an hour. Just keep hitting the donate now, donate now, donate now. So it was really one place doing a whole bunch of donations, but they kept it under the $25 mark.
Yeah.
But none of these people are serious. Not one of them. Because if they were, these problems would have, at least some of these things would have been addressed in a more serious manner.
Yeah.
Well before we got to Uvalde. Well before Sandy Hook, well before Parkland.
Yeah.
Shoot, the kid in Parkland is still out there doing like the liberal political circuit, that David Hogg kid.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. You were literally trying to get rich off of this shit.
He's grifting.
Off a school shooting.
He's grifting is what he's doing.
You survived, so you're going to go make some millions?
Yeah.
Off of it?
Yep.
Go get make your money doing something worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, rather than, why don't you pressure some of these, since you have all this influence now, use it to actually make substantive change, not just beating the get rid of guns drum.
Right.
And because the thing is, even if I completely agreed with you on it, that's not happening. So let's go to something else.
Or even if you thought it could happen. Let's say someone's still on like get rid of all the guns train. You know that's a huge uphill battle.
Yeah.
And you know it's going to take 10 to 20 years to do
Go
that.
after the low-hanging fruit.
So, right. So why not, in the meantime, go after target hardening, a law enforcement response to threats, access control. Why not go after those while you're doing it? And guess what? If you prevent 1 or 2 school shootings over the next 10 years, when you finally get that gun repeal going, well, guess what? You still saved 20 to 40 kids.
Yeah.
That's worthwhile. But no, they don't. None of them do that.
No.
Why? Why do that?
Yeah.
Can't fundraise off of that. I can't fundraise off of common sense.
I can't get votes off that.
No. But hey, hopefully people found this topic interesting. We really didn't disagree much on this one, but hopefully, and that's what the purpose of this. The purpose of this podcast is we're trying to present the common sense solution or common sense thoughts to a lot of issues when we talk about politics. I mean, most times we're boneheads and we talk about stupid stuff because that's what's fun.
Yeah.
But when we talk about stuff like this, hopefully the people out there who don't have a voice hear us and think, okay, I'm not alone out there.
Yeah.
There are people who are rational, who do see things from both sides, who aren't against, especially with guns and whatnot, they're not against more regulation as far as long guns go. But in the meantime, they want to do some common sense things to make the kids actually safer in the meantime. And that's the middle of the road. And that's hopefully when you listen to this podcast, that's what you're hearing from us. Because if you don't want to hear this type of talk, I mean, shoot, you can just go on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, or Newsmax.
Yeah.
And you can get your extreme opinions on either way. InfoWars is not off the air. You know what I mean? You can go to InfoWars and get your information from there.
It's globalist.
But, while we were talking about conspiracies, though, as we did before, if you do want to protect yourself online, go and use private internet access. Go to the dumbideapodcast.com and go click on that private internet access link to get yourself a VPN. Under $2 a month, you're going to get some protection online. Keep your credit card information safe. Keep your address and your phone number safe, and your browsing history is another one. Keep yourself safe from Google and Apple and all those people who want your information. That's probably a good podcast episode for next week when we talk about internet safety or apps that want to sell your data and whether you're getting the better end of that deal. But anyway, use private internet access under $2 a month. Use our link at dumbideapodcast.com. We are coming up with a new name for the podcast, and we'll change the website eventually. But keep on listening, and we'll talk to you real soon.